Alright, let's take a look at the worst transfer from every year dating back to 2003. Let's crack on with it and see the absolutely hopeless transactions that have been made. 2003, Adrian Mutu to Chelsea. £15.8 million. That is how much Adrian Mutu cost Chelsea. 15 million is also what this lad was forced to pay the club out of his own pocket. That is essentially his entire transfer fee from his own bank account. Christ. Banned for the use of narcotics, turfed out of Chelsea after just one season. A talented player, yes, but what an absolute waste of time. 2004, Joelinton Woodgate to Real Madrid. Yeah, it's true, Joelinton Woodgate was an absolutely hopeless signing. It seemed weird at the time. Real Madrid had arguably the greatest collection of players on the planet. What business did they have shopping in the northeast of England? This lad was the 2004 version of Harry Maguire. Unfashionable, square-headed, but a solid enough defender. Not sure how he passes the medical in Spain though. They signed him already injured. He didn't make his debut for 13 months, where he scored an own goal and got sent off. 14 million quid this lad cost. Yeah, that amount wouldn't be enough to buy Benteke's left knee in this decade, but back then it was quite a lot of dosh. Insane stuff. 2005, Michael Owen to Newcastle. Another Real Madrid-Newcastle deal. I think these clubs should just agree to stop selling to each other. Clearly they're giving each other faulty goods. Joelinton Woodgate, Michael Owen, I never saw a goal too, but I assume Santiago Muniz didn't work out, considering the goddamn reviews. Owen was a club record £17 million arrival at Newcastle, given an eye-watering £105,000 a week, spent half his time in the treatment room, captained the club to their first relegation in 16 years. His lack of commitment was disgusting. He never wanted to be in Newcastle from the first day. Fair enough, you wanted Liverpool, but if you're being paid the same money as Frank Lampard, at least pretend like you care. Pretend like you give two hoots about the working class mugs paying for your horse's dinner. 2006, ANDRIY SHEVCHENKO to Chelsea. This was a laughably horrendous deal. Clearly this was a Roman Abramovich signing, bringing in his mate for 30 million quid. After all, Shevchenko was the Champions League winner and one of the finest strikers on the planet. What could possibly go wrong? Well, Shevchenko was already 30 years old for a start. Chelsea already had one world-class striker, and they rarely played with two up front. Oh yeah, and Jose clearly didn't want him. This was never going to work, was it? And no, it didn't. Shevchenko only ever scored 4 league goals for the club, before being returned to sender a washed-up shadow of the man he'd once been. Let's be honest, this fella's career was pretty much ended by Jersey Dudek in Istanbul. 2007, Owen Hargreaves to Man United. It seems a little strange to include Owen Hargreaves, doesn't it? Considering this man literally scored in the Champions League final penalty shootout win. Don't get me wrong, Hargreaves initially looked like a great signing at Old Trafford. After finally stealing him from Bayern Munich for £17 million, Sir Alex Ferguson finally looked to be replacing Roy Keane. No more chucking a broken Alan Smith into the centre of the park. That is like replacing one of the tires for your car with a goddamn balloon. Hargreaves, a star of 2006 World Cup, purely for the fact that he was the only Englishman to score a goddamn penalty, played 34 times in his first season, scored a stunning free kick winner against Arsenal. I give this man credit for somehow managing to take that off Ronaldo. He won the league in his first season, lifted the Champions League. Let's be honest, that club were just one dodgy penalty against Portsmouth away from lifting a historic treble. And then the injuries hit. He only ever played 4 league games after that season, spending 90% of his time in the treatment room before limping out the door to sit on Man City's bench in 2011. Sir Alex has called Hargreaves his most disappointing signing of all time. And this is a manager who once spent 7 million quid on someone sleeping on the street. 2008, AFONSO ALVES to Middlesbrough. This was an outstandingly terrible deal. AFONSO ALVES was a club record £16 million arrival from Heerenveen. This was Gareth Southgate's attempt at taking Middlesbrough to the next level. After all, Alves had scored 48 in 48 games. But buying from Holland is a bit like shoveling your hand into the local bin. Yeah, you could get lucky and find a nice home-cooked steak, but most of the time you're just going to end up contracting salmonella. Alves scored 10 goals in 42 games up at Middlesbrough. Yeah, he had a decent record against both Manchester clubs, but he couldn't really score against anyone else. 2009, Zlatan Ibrahimovic to Barcelona. This was a transfer which backfired spectacularly. I think this was the deal that showed Pep Guardiola is actually a mere mortal after all, not some esoteric god who strikes gold with every football decision he makes. At the time, it looked a great signing. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, one of Italian football's most fearsome strikers, ending up as the champions of Europe. Finally, he was going to break his duck and win the one prize that had eluded him. But packaging Samuel Eto'o, one of the main instigators of your success, and banishing him to Serie A, it made little sense. Zlatan was never going to fit the Barca mould. Can you see that man closing anyone down? He lasted 1 season in Spain, fell out with Pep, clearly hated not being the main man, while Eto'o was lifting his second successive treble with Mourinho at Inter Milan. Oh yeah, and guess who Barca got dumped out of the Champions League by? Sorry Pep, what were you thinking? 2010, Johan Gorkov to Lyon. Yeah, Johan Gorkov looked a good signing for Lyon when he ended up there in August 2010 for £22 million from Bordeaux. This lad was an up-and-coming 24-year-old playmaker, had somehow won the league with Bordeaux when Marouane Chamakh was up front. I mean, come on! Lyon was where this guy's potential shriveled up and died, right there on the spot. He suffered from injuries, played just 90 times in 5 seasons. Oh yeah, and apparently got bullied while on France duty. Poor old Gorkov. 2011, Fernando Torres to Chelsea. This made sense on paper. I'm gonna say it. Prime Fernando Torres, in his pomp at Liverpool, was the best number 9 on the planet. This was one of the most clinical strikers the Premier League had ever seen. Yes, his powers had waned since the 2010 World Cup, but most just put that down to Roy Hodgson being unable to do anything right. It was a wonder Torres hadn't been relegated to taking corner kicks yet, and hey, he even passed his audition for Stamford Bridge in November, lashing in 2 against Chelsea. And then he wound up in West London in January, and it took him 3 months to score a goddamn goal. This was not the Torres of old. This is a washed up £50 million flop, missing open goals and generally stinking the place up. Yes, he scored goals in Europe, but domestically, horrific signing. 2012, Jack Rodwell to Man City. £12 million is what Manchester City, the reigning champions of England, were spending on Jack Rodwell. Nowadays, you wouldn't even pay 12 sticks of salary for the lad. How on earth had he fabled his way to the Etihad? The best team in England, and they're looking to strengthen with that waste of space? A fella who'd go on to not win a match for nearly 40 goddamn games? A lad whose career is now lying face down in a ditch at the ripe old age of 28? He played just 16 league games and 2 seasons at the Etihad. What did they buy him for? To clean the dishes? Put the cones out in training? What? 2013, Roberto Soldado to Tottenham. Spurs had essentially traded Gareth Bale in for 90 million quid. Yes, a lot of money in hand, but quite a task being able to trade that into world-class players. Who's going to want to end up at a selling club stuck in the Europa League? Not many. At the time, Roberto Soldado seemed a brilliant addition. £30 million on a proven centre forward at last. Finally, there'd be no more chucking out of Europe front and hoping for the best. No, Soldado looked lazy, unfit, beyond doing anything that wasn't scoring a penalty. To be honest, delayed the progress of Harry Kane. 2014, Angel Di Maria to Man United. Yes, I could go for Radamel Falcao, but no. Let's talk about £54 million signing Angel Di Maria. This transfer looks oh so important at the time. Manchester United being able to handpick a Champions League winner. Despite not being in European competition themselves, it said a lot about the pull power they still possessed, despite what David Moyes had almost done to their club. But no, Di Maria did not work out. An undoubtedly world-class player. He started brightly, looked like he was about to rescue the club from the doldrums, but no. Injuries hit, burglars terrified him to his very core. He was even sent off against Arsenal and was sold to PSG the next summer. Where annoyingly for United fans, he's just picked up where he left off in Madrid. What a costly mistake. 2015, Jackson Martinez to Atletico Madrid. This was the moment Jackson Martinez's career died a death. He could have been the next Radamel Falcao. After all, they were on the same career path. Like Martinez, Falcao had traded FC Porto for Atletico Madrid after scoring a bucket load in Portugal and one in Dublin. They were both hotshot strikers in the Colombia squad. This was like history repeating itself just a few years later. But no, it didn't. Not at all. Martinez is a man who'd scored 94 goals in 3 seasons for Porto. Surely he was going to become yet another Atletico Madrid striking legend before doing what they all do and busting their way to England. No, the £35 million transfer instead scored twice in 15 games before chucking it all in for China just 6 months later. He since suffered an ankle injury which ruled him out of action for 2 years. Oh, Jackson. 2016, Ahmed Musa to Leicester. This was absolutely hopeless. Leicester had just won the Premier League title. They were thrust into the competition of Europeans elite. They needed to bolster their squad, but with Ahmed Musa, I'm sorry, what? This lad cost £17 million from CSKA Moscow and yes, scored a double in the pre-season friendly against Barcelona. Too bad he couldn't do anything in games that actually mattered. He lasted just 2 years at the King Power, barely threatened to make it onto the pitch, let alone do anything of note in front of goal. 2 goals in 21 league games, poor, just very poor. 2017, Danny Drinkwater to Chelsea. And now here's a Leicester City outgoing. Let's get this straight. That title-winning Leicester squad was mostly ordinary with 3 genuine world-class talents. Danny Drinkwater was not one of them, but seemed to act as if he was. He somehow negotiated a £35 million transfer to Chelsea, worth 100 grand a week, had the audacity to actually turn down an England call-up, which is like me hanging up the phone at Megan Fox, and he's just gone on to become a massive drain on resources at Stamford Bridge. That club's been dealt a goddamn transfer ban, and yet he was still chucked out the window to Burnley. What does that tell you? 2018, Philippe Coutinho to Barcelona. Don't get it twisted, Philippe Coutinho is a top-class player, but I guess he just wasn't suited to Barcelona. I'm not sure why. He was supposed to be the perfect fit. Brazilian flair in the centre of the park, skillful, an eye for a goal, all the components were there. But no, he scored 21 goals in 76 games, was largely made a scapegoat and was laughed off the pitch upon return to Anfield. A potential £142 million this man cost. Yet he was deemed surplus to requirements after just over a year. Madness. 2019, Joelinton to Newcastle. Let's call a spade a spade. Joelinton is absolutely flopped in England. Yeah, I know it's early days, but come on, he looked completely off the pace. Yes, I was prepared to give him a chance, but now, I'm sorry, 1 goal by Christmas is not good enough. This is a Brazilian striker. Where's the flair, the hold up play, the eye for goal? It's not there. He cost 40 million quid. Wow. Anyway, that's the end of it, lads. Let me know, what do you think was the worst transfer for each year going back to 2003 or even before that if you can be bothered? Let me know in the comment section below. If you have enjoyed, don't forget to get a like, share and subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.